Mr. Chris McKay, how are you?
Good. How are you?
Do you know what? I'm good. Thank you for asking. I'm all right. I'm really excited about talking to you. So, congratulations, man. The Tomorrow War. It's got a lot in it, hasn't it? I mean,
Yeah.
like we've got time travel, alien invasion, a kind of semi-dystopian reality where conscription is a thing. So many sci-fi elements. I'm going to go ahead and assume you're a sci-fi fan.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's a safe assumption to make. Yeah. Yeah. I grew up on, John Carpenter movies and Steven Spielberg movies and James Cameron movies and stuff like that. Yeah. That's Star Wars and all that kind of thing.
I guess I guess for me, what's really exciting is the fact that in this day and age, like the Tomorrow War is a rare beast because this is a big budget sci-fi movie that is an original idea. Like this isn't based on any existing IP. I mean, that's kind of huge right now, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. That's what was the original appeal to me when it came across my desk was that it was an original sci-fi movie, that it wasn't attached to anything else. I mean, you get a lot of stuff. You get opportunities to work on all sorts of movies, but generally a lot of them are sequels or they're based on a video game or based on something else, which there's nothing wrong with those things. But to be able to read a script that was original, that combined both sort of genre, a story, external conflict stuff with a really well told human drama character study, B story, internal conflict that dovetailed together thematically. That was to me was Zach Dean's draft of the script that I read was that was a real gift to be able to get that. And something that I as somebody who grew up watching 80s action movies and sci-fi movies and genre movies and horror movies and comedies, and then also in the 90s watched Soderbergh movies and Allison Andrews movies and indie films, and so as a college student and stuff like that, to be able to meld something that melded those two things together on some level, that to me was really exciting.
That's yeah. I mean, like, I guess it fascinates me. Like, was it this script that made that got the money there to make this? Because I keep going on about it, but it's rare. Like, did people just see this script and go, right, we're going to pump like whatever 150 million, however much it cost, into this movie? Was it all based on Zach Dean's script?
It was the script and Chris Pratt. When they attached, they got Chris Pratt to attach to the movie fairly early on. So Chris had read the script and liked it enough to want to, executive produce it and things like that. So the fact that Chris was committed to the movie, believed in Zach's script, and had a window of time between, imagine a guy like that's pretty busy with Jurassic World and Marvel movies and things like that, let alone his own, projects that he's developing and that kind of thing, Terminal List and all that. So to have a window with him and to have him be excited about this thing and believe in it, that's the thing that got everyone. But still, even then, it was not, even with, Chris involved, we still had to, we still had to present a compelling case for this movie in order to get the budget for it.
I mean, it's a movie that, like, I mean, I think it's fair to say it wears its influences on its sleeve. Like, I mean, there's like you say, there's elements of The Thing in there, which I love. A little bit of Prometheus. I love that movie. Some Independence Day, Terminator, obviously, a bit of Edge of Tomorrow. So it's like this wonderful sort of, I hate to use the word mashup, but it's got a lot going on. One of the other influences that I think this film does really well. Like, my favorite sci-fi movie, we're not too far apart in age, so I imagine this was a big one for you. But Aliens, to me, is the greatest sci-fi movie ever made. Yeah? Well, you concur? Yeah.
Absolutely.
And I think every time I rewatch it, I'm amazed at how much you get to know that group of Marines with, like, often in one line, and you're like, I get that character. Now, in that film, they are starting, like, you at least have the base level that you're the viewer and you go, they're Marines. So I get that. So anything on top of that, I've at least got that base level. Now, you do the same thing in the Tomorrow War. But you don't even have the Marines baseline to work from. These are just regular people that we don't know anything about. So you're delivering sort of character for the audience with minimal dialogue.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, part of this is casting, right? Like, which I'm a huge Aliens fan, huge James Cameron fan in general, but Aliens in particular. I mean, Zach Dean's script didn't have any comedy in the movie. It was definitely the bleaker aspects of the movie have run through the entire film. And I knew that we needed to have some relief from that. And Aliens with Bill Paxton, game over, man. We're fucked. I don't know if you're paying attention. We just got our asses kicked back there. Like, yeah, where comedy comes out of character, comedy comes out of the situation, out of relationships, out of the characters, ordinary people in extraordinary circumstances. That was really important to me to bring into the movie. So just that informed how I cast people, like looking for, Sam Richardson was initially part of my pitch. Like when I pitched myself to the studio, I had a keynote presentation that ended with a slide that was a picture of Sam. And I said, regardless of whether you hire me or not, you have to hire this guy to play Charlie, because you need somebody. Chris got the weight of the family drama and his own sort of, character study stuff. So he's got the weight of that. He'll be funny and Chris will do his thing, but like you need somebody else who in this army of the ordinary is just an ordinary person who's relatable and is, Sam's amazing as an actor. He's amazing as a comedy generator. So you just need somebody like that. So literally, even if you don't hire me, hire this guy, because he's gonna kill for you. And then it was from there. It was like, hiring Mary Lynn, hiring Mike Mitchell. Like looking at other people who, like you said, you can just see them, or you get some one line or two lines out of them, and you get a little bit. And we had more stuff. I mean, just by nature of movies like this, you end up having you don't want this movie to be over 2 hours, as much as possible. You want to try to keep it tight. So there was stuff that we had shot that were, added more, layers and backstory and things like that. But ultimately, you do, from a casting standpoint, from a performance standpoint, when Mary Lynn's on screen, you get what her deal is. When Mike's, and she and Mike are playing off each other, you get their deal. We're just really lucky to find people like that and who also wanted to be in a badass action movie.
It's funny that you say about how you added the humor because the script was quite bleak. I was reading about Zach Dean. I found a little quote from him, and he says, Chris McKay as the director and then the cast, they did things with this film, which when you read that is terrifying. That sounds like
doesn't sound like the next part of the sentence is going to go well, does it?
Right? That sounds like
in the future. I would be saying, I don't think this is going to go. This is going to go very well.
It's funny. I read that. I was like, here we go. There is a writer who is not happy with the changes made to his baby. But no, he goes on to say exactly what you said. He said that they were able to hit this impossibly perfect tone. The film has gravity, but they have that cast, so it's able to find the humor in this. That's one of the things I couldn't have hoped for better.
Yeah. I think movies like this, especially when you're talking about a budget, you need to have. You need to look at pace, right? You need to look at tone very carefully when you're doing something like this. You need to evolve the tone. This movie has chapters, when you sort of stand back and look at it, and the tone of those chapters needs to sort of be, consistent but evolving so that you don't, so the movie just doesn't kind of like collapse under its own weight, its own, own sort of self-seriousness maybe. But give the audience a little break. You need a little break. And you also need to, keep the action scenes intense, but sometimes you need to pull back from that intensity for a second, whether that's for comedy, whether that's just to sort of let the character marinate in a performance, in a scene, whatever. So to me, that's you're always kind of like, it's like a clutch. You're always kind of like trying to, kind of like operate, move delicately through some of this stuff and be really attuned to what an audience is going through and what an audience needs in order for the movie to play.
I mean, I tell you, one of the scariest things. Obviously, we'll talk about the white spikes because fucking hell, man, that's something, huh? There's an alien for you. But before we talk about the white spikes, you know what really scares me about it? It's this reality. So it's, you know, set. I'm guessing roughly around the present day, maybe the very near future. The reality that we find ourselves in before they go to the future, and it's this idea that I think we all take for granted, like the freedom that we have now, and the government is there, but they don't really tell us what to do too much. And it's the conscription idea. That's a terrifying conceit, that you can just be walking around your daily life and suddenly you are told no option. You are going to fight in a war that you have very little chance of survival.
Yeah. I mean, that we shot more stuff of people protesting, of sort of like the way that the world is affected by that idea, and how we sort of pay for a war that's not our war, and all of that stuff. It got it was one of the things that, we shot this movie before COVID, but it was one of the things that, as a result of editing this movie during COVID, that the studio kind of pulled back from a little bit, because I think it got a little too close to, like,
I was going to say,
bringing the real world kind of debates it was oddly prescient in a way that was not clearly not intended. But that was the only thing that the studio ever, I think that's probably the only thing the studio ever really got cold feet on, was like pulling back on that stuff, because it just got so, especially at the time we were finishing cutting this movie in December, January of this past year. So it was like, so you can just imagine with and especially in the States, but around the world, the way people were feeling at the time and stuff like that. Like, it was it was probably the right decision to make.
It's certainly the first time in my lifetime where the government have been telling you have to wear a mask, you have to stay 2 meters apart, you have to obey this lockdown. And then I was watching the movie going, shit, that's nuts.
Yeah, it's odd. It's oddly close to what we've just been through, or it's continuing to go through.
And so, I mean, obviously, this is your first live action movie. You come from an animation background. A Lego Batman movie. Was this always the long-term plan? Like, you always saw animation, and then you wanted to do live action?
Yeah, look, I love animation, and I'm never not going to want to do animation. And I think every filmmaker who has an opportunity should try to do something in animation, because it's filmmaking in slow motion, and it's a really great place to really think about what how much. What you need in the scene, how much information you can pack in a scene, because animation is expensive, and so you really have to get as much out of every single scene as humanly possible. So it's a great training ground to go into live action. But I've always wanted, as a kid, I my first movies were Bambi and Snow White and all the Disney movies that they re-released every 7 years. And those were big, emotional influences on me. And then Star Wars and Superman and Raiders and all that stuff. But right today, when you're doing a movie like this, it is kind of a hybrid, because you are having an animation background and being able to talk to the actors about the white spikes and develop animatics and previs and all that stuff. That's very much like an animated process. And you are engaging people, in a voiceover booth, you're engaging people's imaginative resources, because you're kind of creating this whole world and the scene around them. And on set, even though, yes, there's explosions and there's, muzzle flash and blanks and people are running around, you're running around with a camera or an edge camera chasing people and stuff like that. Like, you are also engaging them in an imaginative play, because you are sort of saying, oh, there's a white spike down there and it's running over there. So as you're running, shoot that way, shoot this way, maybe duck a couple of times under the spike. So you are kind of like cops and robbers, sort of playing like that kind of thing with a bunch of actors. So, and like I said, and prevising that. So you're sort of working with the team that's going to put all those things in there. And then the white spikes are a character. So you are working like you are working with an animation team to build life into these creatures, to have a backstory to the creatures, is how they came into the scene. So you are working a lot like it is, like it is animation, and then trying to render it to make it look real, to make it look photo real, like what we're trying to do with the Lego movies, trying to make it look as photo real, make it look like real Lego as possible. We're trying to make the white spikes look as photo real as humanly possible. So, yeah, I mean, for me, it's always been a part of the plan, as far as like wanting to do this sort of thing, but I'll never not want to make an animated movie. I will always want to try to find a way to do that. And all of the stuff that I learned in animation is exactly what you need when you're on set for a movie like this.
Because obviously the Lego Batman movie, like I said, it's such a great film, and it's and there was going to be a sequel, but it's like am I right in thinking Dan Harmon was going to find some time while delivering 70 episodes of Rick and Morty to write a sequel?
Yeah, I can assure Rick and Morty fans that he did not spend so much time working on the Lego Batman movie that he ignored the Rick and Morty need that he had to do. He and Michael Waldron wrote a really great draft of a so it was a Lego Batman movie sequel, but it was going to be called something like Lego Super Friends, and it was going to be about Batman's relationship with Superman and the Justice League, and the structure, and not that I'm saying it as the quality of a movie like this, but the structure was Godfather 2, where you're in the past with Batman, young Superman forming the Justice League. You're seeing a very different version of Batman at that time. You're seeing a very interesting version of Superman and Lois Lane in the world. And then at the same time, you're dealing with their relationships now and their fractured relationship now while they're trying to deal with Lex Luthor and OMAC and a bunch of other supervillain. It was going to be a really fun special movie, and lots of stuff for people who love DC and
I'm not going to lie. Now that you've told me that, I'm more disappointed than I was. So while I appreciate all that information, that
was my point. I was trying to make you feel bad.
Oh, it's kind of upsetting now. I didn't get to interview you, but I met Will Arnett I interviewed him for the Lego Batman movie, and I'm not joking when I say it's between him and Keaton for my greatest on-screen Batman.
Really? Wow, holy cow, that's incredible.
Yeah,
that's amazing. I did at one point try to convince the studio that, with Will and with Michael Cera and with Rosario and with Rafe, we could have just done a live action version of the movie just do a live action version of the Lego Batman movie. And it would have been they were all kind of the right cast for, they're all kind of like age appropriate-ish, and it would have been a lot. It's like, why don't we just do this movie as a live action thing also? Let's do both. Will Arnett's one of the funniest people. Such a privilege to work with him.
He's incredible. Look, we can't talk about Batman. I know it's been sort of long gestating in your mind, but the Nightwing movie often talked about. What's the status, man?
Yeah, it's a movie that I really want to make. Obviously the DC and Warner Brothers have gone through a bunch of ups and downs recently, and so Nightwing has not been a priority for them. They definitely have had they had Matt Reeves' Batman, hopefully knock on wood trilogy of movies, the Joker movie, things like that. Those things were priority, as well as the Aquaman, Flash, and everything else that they've been working on. So, and I get it. And I'm also just hoping that, once Tomorrow War comes out and they see, think of the time they only knew me through Lego Batman, and they liked what I, had done with that, but then they also liked, what we were working on with the script. But I think that they had other marquee characters that they needed to service in a whole world that they needed to sort out and also go through a regime change, several regime changes there, both at big Warner Brothers, but also in the people who are directly involved in DC. So it's been a lot of stuff, and I'm hoping that with Tomorrow War coming out and a movie that is big in scope and big in heart, they can see kind of like what version of Nightwing we could put together. And I'm hoping that they'll, every single person asks me about Nightwing.
I bet.
Everybody asks me about Nightwing, so there's massive interest.
Yeah.
About that character, and I think even if they don't make it with me, they would be crazy not to make a great Nightwing movie, because it's all there, and they can make something really great.
And are you ready to go? Like, do you know what your movie is? If they turn around tomorrow and went, let's do this.
Yeah, we have a great script, and we have and I think for them it's the perfect movie for where they're at with the kinds of movies they're doing right now. And it's also not it's not a massive budget movie. It's not some astronomical, so you can cast it with with an interesting, cast. You don't need to have, a huge movie star to do it. And it's a real stripped down movie with, a different point of view of Batman. You're seeing a guy who grew up under Batman's tutelage, who's now an adult. It's a father and son story, and it's a story about a father that might have been a difficult, from Dick's point of view, might have been a difficult relationship. So yeah, to me it's it's ready to go, and it would be a really great addition to the stuff they're doing.
Hey, my desk is made of wood and I'm touching it right now. That would be amazing, man. That would be amazing. Obviously, I think the Tomorrow War is going to do really well. It's such. I mean, I kid you not. There are action movies, and then there's the Tomorrow War. It's such a vast undertaking. Was there any point where, as your first live action movie, you were like, okay, well, let's open big, people. This is going to be my calling card. I'm going to show you what I can do.
Yeah, I mean, definitely that was part of my, I just wanted to make a good movie. Like I wanted, I think I work better under pressure and with a lot of stress. So having all of these balls to juggle was probably a little bit of the design for me personally, to really push myself and try to go for something really big in scope, but also it gets really big, and then it also kind of narrows down to the generational stories there.
Chris Pratt tells a funny story of you with I think an ice stick in each hand, hiking up a glacier in Iceland, going, "This is what I fucking got into it for."
Yeah, I mean, to drag everybody in 2 hours of a glacier, it goes back to you read books about the making of Empire Strikes Back or something, and they're on a glacier there, The Thing. In Star Wars, Tunisia, they're going around the world, shooting the stuff. And I like practical sets. I like going to locations. I like shooting things in the world and dealing with the elements and making the elements, all that snow drifting and kind of like, horizontal ice, kind of stinging your face and stuff like that. Like all of that kind of stuff, like that's, by design. I want us to have to kind of go through that, because I think it just informs the performances and makes the movie feel more grounded, more real in the White Spike, because it's, you have to now fit it into this environment. You have to figure out a way to make it more real. So yeah, it was fun. At a certain point, the trucks kept breaking down, and finally I was just like, I just need a snowmobile. Just give me a snowmobile so I can get up to the location, so I can get there before everyone else and start to sort of map out the things we're going to do. And so, yeah, so at a certain point, then they just gave me my own snowmobile.
You got a snowmobile?
I didn't even get to take it home. They gave it to me for while we were shooting. But so I did have my own snowmobile for a few days.
It's kind of because Iceland. Like, if you're making a movie with a theme that involves aliens, like Iceland's a great place to go, because that place is like it is like another world.
You are literally in another world. It's crazy. Yeah. It's but beautiful, dangerous, lovely people, and just. Yeah, I mean, I want to go back as a tourist, because you don't get when you're working there, you don't get enough time to enjoy everything. So yeah, I long to go back there as just to kind of live in that place for a second.
Yeah, no, it's cool. I spent a bit of time there. I actually got to go on a glacier on one of those ski mobiles, skidoos, whatever they
Oh
call
yeah,
those.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and it's insanely fun. I got shouted at by an Icelandic guy for going too fast because you're just like all you can see is snow. You're like, when else am I gonna get to do this? I've seen Die Hard 2. This is fun. But yeah,
Yeah,
he was
those
like,
those crevasses though. I mean, that's that's the
yeah.
thing. That's just there. You got to be really careful because you can go down into something and yeah, you'll never come back.
Which is exactly what he said to me, but in a slightly more stern way than you just did. Yeah. Stop fucking around. Come over here. I was like, cool. Sorry. I'm not in Die Hard 2. I get you. So, look, I touched on it, the white spikes. Now, in 2021, I actually think it must be kind of difficult with everything that's gone before. I mean, look, again, I'm telling you, this is what I do. I bang on and on about aliens. But, you got the xenomorphs in Aliens, and you sort of go, that's an iconic monster. So, like, to actually create a new creature that is not just original but scary is an amazing feat, and you've done that with the white spikes, which I believe you were pretty involved in, which I guess is good knowing your sci-fi background because you get to tell people not to do that because that is X and that is X, and I've seen that in X.
Yeah, that's the problem, right? Is you have enough of these images rolling around in your brain. You go, that's a little too Predator. That's a little too Xenomorph. That's a little too Independence Day alien. It's a little too species. So yeah, I'm sure the poor designers were probably very frustrated. But basically, like I was working with a handful of people, including Ken, who ended up doing the majority of the design work. But the thought was like, how can I make something that feels old, that has a history to it, that has a lot of texture? I needed it to have a lot of texture to feel real when it was put into the scenes, put into the shots. I wanted it to feel hungry. I wanted it to feel like it just had an insatiable appetite. So that kind of informed the design of how they sort of carried themselves and that kind of thing. And I wanted them to feel rotten teeth. I wanted them to feel like a dental nightmare. I kept talking about, just like fucked up teeth. And then to have a feral intelligence, to make sure that we could understand that they communicated with each other and that they, could run plays and attack their prey and that sort of thing.
You say hungry. So I think, like, first of all, it's the white flesh. I love that. It's that almost translucent flesh. Like, to me, there's something really prehistoric about that. Like the creatures that you see on nature documentaries that live at the bottom of the Mariana Trench. Like,
that's exactly it.
Oh yeah, well that worked because that's what I thought. Those alien life forms down in the bottom of the ocean. But hungry, you see, it's like what the white spikes for me play into that really primal fear that is about being eaten by something, because they have no grand plan. They're not like, it's not like Independence Day. It's like, we're here for the resources and then we're going to fuck off. It's like, we just are going to eat you. And I think that plays into something. And I don't think you see that very often, like where an alien is feeding like by just devouring people.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. And that's, well, there's like a nightmare logic to that, right? Like you said, like it goes to a primal sort of fear. It's something that just has an insatiable appetite and it's also like, because you keep shooting at it and it keeps coming at you, pieces of it could fall off and it still is coming at you to eat you. To me, that was like, there's a nightmare logic that I wanted to have to our movie that made it, just brought you back to that place, that place of fear of something that's just going to devour you.
Because one of the worst things I've ever seen in a movie, and I'm not standing up for Jaws 3D right now because that's a losing battle on any day. However, the one thing that movie gets right is the point of view shot from the British hunter guy when he's actually in the shark's mouth and he knows he's dying and he can just see the jaws closing up and down in front of him. He's trying to get out. Fucked me right up.
Yeah, I remember that too. I remember that. That's great.
Yeah. And there was that guy, I think it was a guy who was swallowed by a whale recently, which also, just reading that, I mean, I know it was by accident, but you're in a whale's mouth for 40 seconds. Yeah. That's my living nightmare. Hey, so Chris Pratt, obviously you've worked with him before on the Lego movies. Like, how was it? Was it comforting's not the right word, but like having someone who, like, you know, that you'd had a relationship with previously on your first like live action movie must have been quite reassuring. Is a better word than comforting.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of comfort and confidence, you get with somebody that you've worked with a little bit, but Chris is just, you couldn't, even if I hadn't, worked with him, just working with a guy like Chris, who's a real generous guy, a real deliberate, careful, giving guy. Like he's really invested in the movie. He's not a guy who's just kind of coming in, walking on, and doing something. He really throws himself out there in every way. In every way, smart with notes. He's got great ideas. Really playful. Just wants excellence. That's all he cares about. So yeah, he's a great partner. Couldn't ask for a better guy.
He's got that great mix of humor and steeliness. Like, obviously, I think this is going to be Harrison Ford's last Indiana Jones movie, and Chris Pratt is near the top of my list of potential Indiana Joneses. What do you reckon?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. Chris could kill that. He'd be amazing. Yeah. I'd love to see. I'd be the first person in line to see a Chris Pratt Indiana Jones movie. Absolutely.
100%, right? Yeah. So your next project, once the Tomorrow War, you're going on to Renfield, right? That's next over at Universal.
Yeah, I mean, that's what's hopefully directly next is doing that. I'm excited about it. It's an action movie. It's a horror movie. It's a comedy. It's a movie about codependency. It's a movie about bad bosses. It's another movie that's very timely. We're talking about people who are bad bosses, which was in the air. This is a movie that's kind of a little bit about that. But yeah, to me it's a great way into that world. It's modern. It's not set in the past. It's set in modern times. Yeah, it's also got a couple of musical numbers. It's a crazy.
Wow.
I sort of likened it the other day to the tone a little bit of like Evil Dead 2. Like it's
okay.
Kind of a go for broke movie a little bit. So yeah, it's gonna be a lot of fun.
That sounds nuts. Well, as nuts as Renfield should be, really. I mean, like for a lot of people, me included, like my only knowledge of Renfield is Coppola's Bram Stoker's Dracula and Tom Waits like eating bugs and desperately asking for a kitten in a prison cell. Yeah. Like that's so you have that and you're like, and he's your lead. Yeah. Like it's kind of like how does that work?
Yeah. It's a story about this. It's a story about an assistant working for a toxic narcissist. Somebody who's I hesitate to give too much away, but it's gonna be a fun movie.
Yeah, no, I think I'm really looking forward. For me, it's exciting to see a movie like that coming out of the Universal stable of monsters, because obviously there's exciting things happening over there. Although I mean, on paper at least, the Dark Universe did sound like a good idea initially. But yeah,
we may be poking fun at some of that in our movie a little bit. So there may be some of that.
Good. Well, I think that would work great for them, because I think they need to be able to go, yeah, all right, fine. We hold our hands up. That was Russell Crowe playing a kind of Nick Fury in the Dark Universe. An interesting experiment. I think that's the way to put it. And one more movie that sounds cool is you're doing a Johnny Quest. Is that happening? Is that in the pipeline?
Absolutely, yeah. We turned that script into the studio just literally 2 weeks ago, and it's in the mold of a Raiders of the Lost Ark type movie, but a family that sort of gets stuck in a Raiders, James Bond kind of action adventure movie, and it's going to be Yeah, it's definitely not like just it's a movie that takes puts the kids in jeopardy, puts the whole family in jeopardy. It's like it's not a Spy Kids movie. There's nothing wrong with Spy Kids movie, but it's just tonally it's not that. It's much more like Stranger Things or something like that, or It, where it's like it's not It from a horror perspective, but it's just like it's the kids are in just as much danger as the adults, and we're going for it. It's imagine like I said, a family. If Indiana Jones had a family and they were all going on the adventure, that's kind of what this movie is. So yeah.
I mean, you can mention it to me, and I mean, I know you're not saying it's a horror movie like It, but I'm sold on anything that's like It. Tim Curry as Pennywise. Seriously.
Yeah. Tim Curry's amazing,
isn't he?
Yeah.
Isn't he? I remember watching the TV movie of It like as a kid, and not sleeping for a week. It's just again, it's another thing that eats children.
Yeah. I sense the theme.
In fact, now it feels a bit like therapy, like I'm about to go. So I was partially eaten by an animal as a child. So finally, the Tomorrow War. Like it was gonna, and I mean this with respect because it's the new normal. But I do wonder, like obviously it was gonna get a cinematic release, and now it's going straight to streaming, which, like I said, it's the new normal, and I am lucky enough to have a big TV to watch stuff on, so I got to watch on a big TV, and it was great. However, I wonder as a filmmaker whether you do ever sort of go, yeah, no, that's fine, and that's cool, and I'm glad my movie's coming out there, but I would have loved to have sat in a theater and watched it.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a movie that's a big movie. Plays big, but it plays. Our intention was to make a theatrical, film. That's what we none of us knew that COVID, none of us could have predicted this. But now that we're here, we have to make, the best decisions for the movie possible. It's an original sci-fi movie. It's that's a hard sell. Especially when you've got planes lining up to land, week after week at the movie theater, big James Bond movies, Marvel movies, DC movies, Dune, a million things that all of us, we're all looking for. I mean, I'm going to be first in line for all the Fast and Furious movies, things like that. Like there are all of these things that, Quiet Place 2 and all that stuff. So it's understandable that they wanted to make a different choice. Now, we also live in a world where streaming is actually really exciting for a couple of different, from a couple of different standpoints, and Amazon in particular. Where the movie's going to be released in 240 countries around the world simultaneously. So as a filmmaker who wants to, have an audience and wants to present something to the biggest audience humanly possible, being able to, day and date, have your movie play to 240 countries around the world is pretty incredible. And to be able to have that dialogue with an audience is amazing. We mixed the movie for theatrical. We also did a separate version of the movie for home. And so home theater sound, best, theater sound design for a home viewing experience. And the HDR version of this movie is the closest to what I saw with Dave Cole and Larry in Photochem and DI. So you're going to get the best resolution possible. It looks like what I was looking at in the theater in Photochem. So to have that confidence to know that people are going to see it, with the effects are going to play, that you're going to see the best version of the effects, you're going to see the best version of the scope and scale of the movie. As trade-offs go, that's a great trade-off, and so I'm really excited. I'm excited that people can watch it. We also, I know people watch movies on their iPhones and iPads and things like that, but
don't do that.
Maybe don't do that for this one. If I can offer any advice, please don't do that for this movie. But obviously people have giant TVs, and hopefully you can watch it on the biggest TV you can find with the best sound, and gather all your friends and check it out. I
mean, I fundamentally agree with everything you've just said. It's an admission of mine. Like the thing that makes me cry when I watch a film, weirdly, it's not always the emotional scene where the strings start playing and you're expected to cry. What makes me not bawl my eyes out, you understand, but genuinely well up through sheer joy is action sequences, like beautiful action, like the bit in the Matrix where the helicopter goes over the side and Neo's holding on, he mouths Trinity, and like the fucking the bus doing the jumping speed. I well up every time when it makes the fucking jump. And the attack on I don't think it's a spoiler because there's a little bit in the trailer, but there's I'll call it a sea-based attack. There's about 3 moments like in a row in that. There's the drones flying around, like spiraling around the pillar, shooting the white spikes. Oh, see, I'm going to go now just describing it because I can remember it. It's art, man.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. That's high praise. Sorry. Yeah. That's thank you.
Do you get that when you because it would upset me that you couldn't experience that because it's your own work? Are you sort of always sort of analyzing it, or can you sort of sit back and just watch a scene like that and have the emotional response that someone like me does?
That's probably not today. It's one of those things I think in time because still we just finished the movie in the end of April or end of March, beginning of April. So it's only been a couple of months for us where we finally finished the last color correction, the last bit of sound mix. So it's been a short time to be, to really have a chance to have some perspective, So I'm hoping that, in time I'll be able to look at stuff. I mean, I'm just really proud of the crew and the cast who put in a lot of hard work and who really dedicated themselves to something and really, made, were dedicated and couldn't have worked harder or been more just giving of their time and their creative energy. It was those are the things that affect me emotionally, like when I think about like just what a great crew that I had, what a great cast that I had. That's the stuff that I reflect on now and just feel really appreciative of everyone's hard work and creativity.
Well, I'd like to add my thanks to your thanks for making me pretend I wasn't crying on my sofa when in fact I was. So thank you. And thank you, Chris McKay, and congratulations again, man. Great film.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you very much. Thanks for doing this. I really, really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.